Whew! Hey Mario Kart fans, how's the DLC been treating you? Almost a year now since the Booster Course Pass came out of nowhere, and it's already delivered 3 waves of thrills, throwbacks, and blue shells right before the finish line. And each wave's been more impressive than the last. Even the visuals have taken a step up each time. But we got 3 more waves coming in 2023. And what if I told you I can use everything we've learned so far, combined with some intel the devs accidentally left behind, to pinpoint exactly what we might see the rest of the way? Sorta. It gets complicated sometimes. I had a pretty good track record with guessing waves 2 and 3, so I might or might not have an eye for this stuff. Heads up, this video will be talking about leaks that popped up after waves 1 and 2. Wave 3 didn't have any far as I'm aware. So fair warning if you're worried about spoilers, though they're mostly inconclusive data and most outright confirmed tracks are city ones from Mario Kart Tour that we all expected anyway, so it's not as spoilery as you'd think. So let's get going, after a few guidelines first. Okay, let's make this quick so we can get to the actual predictions, but we need to go over some things so said predictions are more informed. Based on the DLC so far, each wave will have the following. At least 2 tracks from Mario Kart Tour based on real-world cities. We might get more than 2 in a couple waves, for reasons we'll get into later. 1 new original track set in the Marioverse. These might debut in Mario Kart Tour beforehand like Merry Mountain and Ninja Hideaway, or they might show up in the DLC first like Sky High Sundae. This also gets complicated by the end. 1 track from Mario Kart Super Circuit completely remade from the ground up. They've actually been doing this since the original Mario Kart 8 DLC. Some fan favorites from the GBA have remakes in Tour already, so which could make the jump to HD? Or will one show up here first like Snowland did? 1 returning track per game per wave, other than Tour city courses. This helps each wave draw from more than just a couple entries and helps appeal to more fans at a time. There will be 1 exception to this later due to an apparent change to Wave 3. It'll make sense when we get there. As much variety in track themes as possible. Don't want to lean too hard on one thing or it makes a DLC less appealing overall. So we won't have, say, 2 beach-themed tracks in the same cup, and only in the same wave if they have very different visuals. And each wave's gotta have a few tracks fans really want to see come back. The devs have delivered so far, but you notice there are still a lot of favorites that haven't shown up yet? Best to spread them out so each wave has heavy hitters, and our predictions need to account for that. Also, any track that is already in Mario Kart Tour has a better chance of making it in, but it's not the end-all be-all, and we've seen exceptions already. Okay, now we gotta talk leaks. If you're hesitant at all, this is your last warning, because these are pretty credible, and I have to account for them to make these predictions more accurate. Alright, here are the 3 leaks we need to account for. After Wave 1 dropped, data miners found an image of a Booster Course Pass promo banner in the game files, and they noticed some of the little screenshots in the image showed tracks that hadn't been announced yet. This gave away a handful of courses we got in Waves 2 and 3, including Sky High Sundae, which wasn't even a thing yet. However, most of the ones that aren't accounted for yet are either very blurry or they're city tracks we expected to be in anyway. Also in Wave 1, data miners found leftover data for the rest of the past cups that included a list of previous Mario Kart games. After some sleuthing, they realized it potentially told us which game each track in the remaining waves would come from, and it was spot on for Waves 2 and 3, with a single exception that seems to be a result of 1 track getting delayed. This means we, more or less, know which games each track in Waves 4 through 6 will pull from, which helps us narrow things down immensely, except part of Wave 6 for reasons that'll make sense later. In the files for Wave 2, the devs accidentally left snippets of preview music for all of Wave 3's tracks, and a few from Waves 4 through 6, which is why we have reason to think one planned for Wave 3 was swapped out for another. The music for Waves 4 to 6 is pretty sparse and mostly only city tracks again, but if we combine them with the source game leak, it helps us narrow down the order they'll show up in. Insightful, isn't it? Okay, I know, a lot to go over, but now that we're as informed as possible, let's start piecing the rest of this puzzle together. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go! Alright, Wave 4 consists of the Fruit Cup and Boomerang Cup. These are the games listed for these cups in the source game leak. Thanks to the music leak, we also know exactly which 2, possibly 3, city tracks will show up here. Notice that 3rd tour slot at the end of the Boomerang Cup? So, what could we see here? We begin with a trip to Amsterdam. Thanks to the leaks, we can pretty much pencil it in for Wave 4's first tour slot unless plans abruptly changed. Based on the 3 layout variants in Tour so far, which will make up its 3 laps in the DLC, there are some cool sights to take in, so make sure to enjoy the city scenery, the canals, and the Dutch countryside. Wave 4 may be set for the spring, but it's cold enough on the mountaintops for this one. DK Summit was hidden in the banner leak and has already been remade in Tour, so the assets are there for racers to launch up the mountain and trick their way back down in style. The source game leak only has 1 remaining slot period for Mario Kart DS, so it's gotta count. I'm honestly split between this one. On one hand, we could get a thrilling ride across Bowser's castle ramparts and through one of his iconic airships, or a more relaxed tour through the streets of Isle Delfino's hub town. Some also claim they've seen Delfino Square in the banner leak, though I'm not fully convinced unless I'm missing something obvious. Add on that Airship Fortress is in Tour already, and it's a tough one. Told you it gets complicated. Especially with the last slot in this cup, the one that didn't have any game listed. You see, this also happened in Waves 2 and 3, and those were where the new Marioverse tracks went, which means we're probably getting another original one with absolutely no idea what the theme will be. Or can we figure it out? Mario Kart Tour has also had leftover data at various points, including a list of placeholder names for new tracks in development. One of them has YI at the end of its placeholder ID, and considering it has additional placeholder data tied to it referencing arrow signs, Shy Guys, and a ring of flowers that might or might not be familiar, we might be getting a track themed after Yoshi's Island. The spin-off series has some very unique aesthetics, and we might get to see them in Mario Kart for the first time. Nothing confirmed, obviously, but context clues draw a very interesting picture. Get it? Because of the art style? Anyway, now for the Boomerang Cup, and another city course we know goes here thanks to the source game and music leaks. Our second, though not last, trip for this wave takes the Mario Kart crew to Singapore. Gotta say, I really dig the nighttime aesthetics of this one. Is the real-life central area as cool looking as this? So about there being a track pushed back from Wave 3. The source game leak had a Double Dash track in the slot that went to Maple Treeway, and the music leak had this one's theme sitting amidst the rest of that wave. And since Waluigi Stadium popped up on the banner leak, we know it's that and not Wario Coliseum. This seems to imply Waluigi Stadium was originally meant for Wave 3 but needed more work, and Maple Treeway, which was already in Tour, subbed in. I think Waluigi Stadium's gonna make its grand debut in Wave 4 instead, pushing the Double Dash tracks originally slotted for Waves 4 and 5 back to 5 and 6, the latter being Maple Treeway's original slot, so they also get more time in the garage. That made sense, right? Now for a spot where I'm split between 2 options from Super Circuit, and it's based on which city course gets placed at the end of this wave. Remember, we want aesthetic variety. We could see the recently finished remake of Riverside Park with its newly updated visuals, or we could get Cheep Cheep Island instead, since this wave doesn't have a beach track yet. It might all come down to what goes last. So about that, Wave 4 has a 3rd slot for a Tour city course. Los Angeles Laps showed up around here in the music leak, so it might go here, or it might go at the start of Wave 5 instead. If it's here, I think we get Riverside Park as the Super Circuit track, since LA Laps has a prominent beach and boardwalk section that make Cheep Cheep Island feel more redundant. Alternatively, the Tour leftover data includes references to objects that point toward a couple of the placeholders being for city tracks, including one with an MD abbreviation that is potentially based on Madrid. If that goes here, I think we get Cheep Cheep Island as the Super Circuit rep this wave. Complicated, right? If I am reading this right, Wave 4 will continue the first half's momentum without breaking a sweat. No matter what they pick for the Boomerang Cup's last half, it'll be a blast. Alright, now for Wave 5. These are the source games slotted for the Feather Cup and Cherry Cup. We can also reasonably guess these tracks will appear here based on the music leak. A bit tougher to figure these out, but we can do it. Okay, so you know that whole spiel about the city tracks that could go at the end of Wave 4? I think whichever doesn't get placed there will go at the start of the Feather Cup instead. There are a couple other options based on the placeholder data that we'll get to later, but I and others are more confident about the Madrid course existing than the others, so we'll put this 50-50 between it and LA here for now. Now for something less complicated. Koopa Cape's a fan favorite that already got a touch-up in Tour and might or might not have appeared in the banner leak. Plenty of cliff diving, current riding, cheap dodging action to be had here. Just hopefully with a different color palette than Tour used. Not a fan of the light brown cliffs compared to the gray in Wii and 7. Good news, y'all! The banner leak indirectly confirms Sunset Wilds in the DLC, and the music leak puts it specifically in Wave 5, so you can pencil it in. With how much the visuals have stepped up in Waves 2 and 3, I can't wait to see how this one looks in HD with the sun slowly setting as the race goes on. Okay, so, another city one we can't immediately ID. This one's more of a reach than Madrid, but it's a popular theory. There's this AT placeholder in Tour's data, and the object names last tied to it are pretty vague. But the abbreviation has a lot of people, myself included, thinking it might be based on Athens. I mean, come on, it's a perfect location. The city's rich history, the distinct Mediterranean architecture, and so many landmarks. You could focus an entire variant/lap on the Acropolis alone. Back to predictable stuff. Musically gave away that Bangkok Rush is in Wave 5, though it might actually be at the end of the Feather Cup, which would put Athens or another one here instead, or you get the idea. This one's got some cool layout stuff going on. A lot of twists and turns, multiple elevations, and some unique hazards like the inky piranha plants in that stretch under the SkyTrain. We know a double dash track is going here, so I'm calling my shot and saying this iconic traffic course is getting a revival. The remake in Mario Kart DS took out several shortcuts due to system limitations, so maybe we'll see stuff like the dash panels on the bridge rails come back again, though I bet that offshoot at the start for a double item box still won't be worth it. Something from Super Mario Kart is going here, and this one's conditional again. If the Wave 4 Super Circuit pick is Cheap Island, I think we get Vanilla Lake 2 here to avoid doubling up on 16-bit beach tracks. A nice frosty contrast to the rest of the wave, even if it's on the short side. But if we didn't get Cheap Island, we might get Koopa Beach 2 here instead. This one's aged better than most from the SNES, and its touch-up in Tour already added a half-submerged section that they could go even further with here. Okay, so Wave 5's ending with something original, and we might have a hint toward its theme. Data miners found some unusual stuff tied to the BR placeholder. Object names all associated with baths? So there's speculation that an upcoming OG course is going to take place in, of all things, a giant bathroom. There are a few ways they could spin such a concept. Might take place inside a bathtub with racers driving across objects and under the water. Might actually be a spa or ornate bathhouse that happens to have props lying around. Or it might actually be a battle mode arena and the real Wave 5 rep is something else. We'll go over possibilities for that in a bit. All in all, Wave 5 ought to keep the good times rolling, with more blasts to the past, some exotic locales, and even a chance to wash up at the end. Nothing like feeling all clean and refreshed, right? Last but not least, we have Wave 6. Here are the source games for the Acorn Cup and Spiny Cup. Maple Treeway's original slot in the former has been replaced by a double dash track. And since Maple Treeway got moved up, there's only one we can place here from the music leak. But notice the 3 slots that don't have a game listed? Those have been for original tracks so far, but will Wave 6 really have 3 of them when every previous wave only had 1? Or could a couple of these just be placeholders for retro courses that hadn't been locked in yet after Wave 1, like a Super Circuit remake we've had in every wave so far? We're going to consider both possibilities. First, though, is the one we know is going here. The music leak puts Vancouver Velocity at the start of the Acorn Cup. Shame we have to wait so long for it. The nighttime background really makes the landmarks here pop. The buildings, the summer parklands, the hockey stadium? Guess the Canucks are on a road trip. Hard to think this one might also get pushed back, but every wave needs some heavy hitters. I highly doubt Daisy Cruiser won't make it, even if it takes until Wave 6 where it replaced Maple Treeway's original slot. Always fun driving across the deck of the cruiser, around the pool, through the dining hall and cabins, and into that storage room turned aquarium. Hope you don't get seasick, or car sick. So like I said, I'm not sure if every one of the unmarked tracks in Wave 6 will be original ones. I want to err on the side of caution and consider that 2 of them might still be retro picks. And if so, there's one more chance to bring Shy Guy Bazaar back from 7, since there aren't any 3DS slots in the second half as is. Come on, don't make us wait until the next Mario Kart. We don't even know if it'll have retro cups. This cup's last slot probably is something original either way, unless I'm wrong and the OG one's going third in the spiny cup like Merry Mountain did in Wave 3, and anyway, if it is going here, what could its theme be? We have a couple leads via tour placeholder data, and U has data tied to it referencing eel hazards, which could point toward a track set deep underwater. Think Dolphin Shoals, but less sunny and jazzy. Or there's a DK one that, well, there's a pretty safe guess for that one. DK Island has some new aesthetics in the Mario movie that happen to line up with designs for the upcoming DK expansion at Super Nintendo World Japan. If this is a sign for the series going forward, a new track using the new aesthetic would work out, especially if it also ties into a new DK game. Come on, it's been almost 9 years since Tropical Freeze. The Spiny Cup opens with one more city course. There's a theory for it, but it's a bit weird. Another tour placeholder has the abbreviation OR, and based on its connected object names, it is a city. Popular talk is it could be based on Orlando, including the Super Nintendo World location planned for the Universal theme park there. However, that expansion's not set to open in Orlando until 2025, long after Wave 6's window of late 2023, and it would show up in Tour even earlier. Would the Tour devs base a track on something that wouldn't exist for another year and a half? On the other hand, I don't know what else this placeholder could be. These abbreviations have had a consistent style, so something like New Orleans would have used different letters. Who knows, right? What I do know is there's one GameCube slot left. This one was in Wave 6 all along, and one clear pick to end its lineup in style. Double Dash's take on Bowser's Castle has a lot of fans of its many obstacles and ominous atmosphere, and it hasn't gotten a remake yet. What better time than the present, the near future? One more brand new track could go here, or if it's a placeholder, there's another possibility. Wave 6 doesn't have a Super Circuit remake yet. So, Yoshi Desert is one of the game's most iconic courses thanks to the imitation Sphinx in the background, which could be more front and center now. The winding sands and desert oases could look stunning in HD, and very different than Sunset Wilds. And its music redone with Mario Kart 8's big band style? Oh, come on! No matter how the unknown slots end up, Wave 6 looks to end the pass in style with the right mix of new and old. But there's one spot left, and based on everything we know, there's only one way it could end. Based on the source game leak, the final track of the DLC will be one from Mario Kart Wii, and you just gotta end it with a Rainbow Road. I had Double Dashes here in the first video, but I overlooked just how beloved this one is, and it seems the devs for the Booster Course Pass noticed before I did. The looping path across the outer atmosphere, the split half-pipes in the middle with the gaps you can jump over with a mushroom, the Mario Galaxy motifs everywhere. In a way, this one paved the path for every Rainbow Road we've seen since. What better way to finish the pass than with this? Whew. And that is my personal educated guess using all information currently available for what the remaining 3 waves, 6 cups, and 24 racetracks might be for the Booster Course Pass. A compelling mix of courses with a variety of themes from across Mario Kart history and beyond, even if they're more weighted toward Tour than the first half was. And yet, there's so many other possibilities here. Maybe Athens could go before Madrid, maybe they'll pull off an Orlando track without needing Nintendo World, or something else completely. I kinda want to see the final city track be Kyoto, and have the last lap go by Nintendo HQ. I also wouldn't mind if some personal favorites like Toad's Factory or Moonview Highway found a way in, but who knows. Lots more Mario Kart to be had before we're done and left to wait for the next game. And with the visuals getting better each wave, the second half's sure to be as much a feast for the eyes as it is a challenge for the gas pedal and steering wheel. And brakes if you're playing 200cc. Hey, if you stuck around, take a look at my channel for my other content. I'm mainly a Smash Brothers guy, but I dabble in other topics sometimes if there's something insightful to say, or something I can try and predict. My signature series is actually about designing/predicting movesets for potential Smash newcomers, and I've done several Mario characters already. Special thanks for this video to these people here. Thanks especially to my patrons for continuing to support me throughout the year and into the next. And thanks to the Mario Kart Tour Community Discord for answering a few datamine related questions I had. So, until next time, may your karts be swift, your turns be tight, and your luck not disappear right before the finish line.